coming up, we have two foxy ladies from Fountain Lakes. They've got one word to say to you, and you're about to find out. So don't look amoy. Look at them. It's time to crack open the Tia Maria and put on the footy franks. They're nice. They're different. They're unusual. They're Cath and Kim.
I think we got the wrong introduction.
Oh my goodness. Who are those people?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining our session.
Yeah, we've got a great session for you. We are going to look at how to create the perfect proposal, if there is one, okay? We're going to make this a little bit interactive. So the first thing we'd ask you to do is if you can grab your phone and go to menti.com, that's MENTI, it's at the top of the screen, and use the code 568926. So let's go, Kim. So just introducing us, you already know us though. We are the co-founders of the Learning Conference. Oh, here we go. We're getting some love, Kim.
Some love.
And you can reach us at hello@the-learning conference. And just a little bit of housekeeping. Hannah is there in the chat. So, you know, ask away, ask your questions. You can also ask questions in the little doodad down here. Oh, cool. Lots of love. Oh, this is gorgeous. All right. So opening it up to you guys. What would you like to get out of this session? You tell us.
What do you reckon they're going to say? What would be the biggest?
A proposal template would be fab. Win a major tender. See some examples of good proposals. Okay. What else would you like? How to give the client what they want. No, we don't want to give the client what they want. Tips on what to include in a proposal. Best proposal that we can write and how we can teach it to the learners. Actionable items. How to impress the client. What to do and what not to do. What phrasing to use to win clients. Keywords not to use. Tips on pricing. We may not be getting into pricing, but this gives us a good idea of the kind of things that you guys are wanting. Examples for best proposals.
Took a photo.
All right, no shortcuts. Yesterday's questions Miss White used. What? I don't know what's happening. Anyway, we will continue, Kim.
Cool. Let's do it.
All right, so I want to know, have any of you ever written a proposal before?
Can we do our own sound effects? Ooh.
Oh, we've got more.
Oh, they're so cute, the little circles.
Yeah. Adorbs.
Oh.
Okay. So we're about half.
Yep.
All right. No one doesn't know, and that's good because you'd hope you'd know if you'd done a proposal before. So this is good. All right. Some of you are obviously pros. You've done it. Some of you haven't done it. Okay. So again, for those of you who have done a proposal, let me know, what do you think needs to go into a proposal? What do you think, Kim?
I think methodology. I think that's worked well for us. Yeah. Steps to success is something like painting the picture of where you're headed is something as well, because I think you need to communicate that to clients. They don't always know. And then that also demonstrates the value of whatever that figure is at the end. You can go, well, we have to do all these things to achieve what we want. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think it can be a little bit simpler than this. I think it's certainly making sure that you tell someone, you want to let people know who you are. Yeah. And that you're capable of doing it. So that's one of the things.
Yeah.
We've got here timelines. So absolutely the client's problem, how long that's going to take to come up with that. Scope is absolutely something in the conditions that I add in. Outcomes, price, what the cost is going to be to actually do the solution.
Yep.
These are all great.
I'd say out of there, for me, probably I'd say the scope is the most important.
Yep.
Yeah, being very clear on what you need to include and what's not included.
Yep.
I normally would kind of keep the scope as almost a contract, because we don't always do contracts. So getting that scope really clear.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. These next little bullet points, guys, are the minimum that you really need to put into a template and into a sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat. You have to put into your proposal basic information about each of the companies. A client wants to make sure that they're comfortable with you, that you understand who they are, and in line with that, the problem that they need solved. And it doesn't need to be a lot. Do you put a lot in your proposals, Kim?
Yeah, I do. Oh, it depends on where I think their budget is pitched at. So sometimes it's just an email, little short thing. Sometimes it's a 40-page PowerPoint. What about you? It depends, on, is it a tender? Is it just someone that's rang over the phone? Because sometimes a proposal is literally a conversation. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, you're right, because you can cover a lot verbally. I keep mine quite succinct though. And we're gonna show an example of a proposal. But I keep things quite succinct, but it is quite long, but it's just chunked down into different pieces. So you're also going to do a basic overview of how the problem will be solved. Okay. You want to indicate to them how long it will take to solve the problem. How much the solution will cost them. And, thinking about a proposal is really a sales document. Terms and conditions, though, is something that some people, I am one of them, add into my proposal. So I actually do a kind of hybrid of a proposal contract. In a bigger organization, you might find that this is a separate document, but this is something that I include. And there are sometimes, I'm sure you get it as well, Kim, working with like government departments, they might have a contract that they want you to sign theirs. So I'm just giving you, I'm not saying that this is going to be the same everywhere. This is just what works for me for a lot of the jobs that I do.
Cath, when you get a government client that says, here's our contract, you need to agree to these terms and conditions, have you ever gone back and pushed and said that term there doesn't work for me?
Every time.
What's your approach with that?
Yeah, every time. It's a two-way thing. They have to want to work with me. I've said to a client, well, I have to protect myself. This statement doesn't protect me. So I need for you to who's going crazy with the heart? Stop it. You're absolutely interrupting me.
We appreciate the love.
We're getting lots of love. I go back to them and I say, I'd like an amendment to this. I'd like an amendment to that. Even if I've had meetings with, the lawyers of the government departments, talking about why I have an issue with something. And a lot of it is to do with, I don't have any control over what their deliverable, so I'll put amendments in such as after I have received the signed off storyboard, it will take me this long to do this next piece. But I can't say it's going to take 3 months or 2 months or however long, because I need to make sure that I'm covered. How about you? What do you do?
Yeah, a contract or a terms and conditions, it's a negotiation and it has to work for both parties. But I think what's great is, especially when you're starting out, you don't have those fancy things, and lawyers, like, they can write something, but it's not always specific to our industry.
No.
So sometimes it's quite cool to get a client's one that you can then amend and move forward, because a lot of the time they've had their lawyers look at it, which means that it's in a good condition. So just know that you have permission and it is acceptable to go back and amend and just, chat about it. It's just a discussion.
Absolutely. And if that person wants you to work, they will have no problems making amendments that are reasonable. So don't be nervous at all. Okay, so we've said that you could do a proposal without terms and conditions, and you can do one with terms and conditions. This is really covering your butt. Okay, so honestly, so what kind of things do you think should go into terms and conditions? What's an
Service
SLA?
level agreement.
Oh, respect. Okay,
respect. I like it. Respect. Yeah.
In case of missing timelines, assumptions, avoid payment to invoice payment terms, cancellation expectations, COVID safe. That's one I never thought about. Deliverable dates, project scope.
What do you do? Do you have like a little sentence you put in? I think scope creep is quite common. How do you manage that in your T's and C's?
Yes, I put scope in two places. One of them is what the goals are when they're within my milestones. So what are the goals of the project? I talk a little bit about once something has been signed off. I've actually got an example of it that I'll be showing in a minute. Once an item has been signed off, then there'll be an hourly rate that I'll charge for things that are out of scope, which I think is the same really anywhere. I also have how many rounds of reviews, which is really important. So I do two feedback rounds. So they give me their feedback. I implement it. I give it back to them. They sign it off, unless there's minute changes. And I've worked with different companies as a freelancer, so I've kind of seen other ways that people do things, and they'll also define what is a minor change and what is a major change. Something that I don't do, but that's another thing that you could kind of do. So these are all really great examples. And I've got a list here that I think are ones that are pretty important. So you want to have how long the offer or the agreement is valid for. Okay.
That's really important, hey, because sometimes you want that sense of urgency. You want someone to sign in and get the project started.
Absolutely.
That's, what that is about. So it's valid for 7 days or 30 days. Otherwise, we review the price or we review the scope.
Or the thing is, you can't hang on and have that out there,
the potential
in the open,
of that job,
without an expiration date, because another client will come along, and if you don't have an expiration date, they'll say, well, you didn't say it was going to be this. I also have parameters in that say this price does not mean it's going to be the same for the next price. This price for this project doesn't mean the next project's going to be the same price. So you can also define how either party can change the agreement. So I have a simple sentence that says, if anything within this agreement, if you would like to discuss anything, or if you would like to make any changes, please let me know and we'll have a discussion. So,
and that stuff I think is important to do in writing. Always have stuff documented, changes of minds, or definitely document that in writing.
The responsibilities of both parties, not just the service provider. If the service provider can reproduce the work in their portfolio. So I have something in my clause that says I'm going to, I would like to basically put a logo maybe on my website and put a screen capture. So it's not sharing it, but it's maybe putting a screen capture on the website. And it's really interesting because I've never had anyone say, no, I'm not happy with that. So what kind of legal relationship exists between the parties? That can be a bit high level, but something to think about. What warranties are included in the agreement from both parties? So, you might say, I'm going to, there might be rounds of changes, or I'll work as a retainer. This will be a retainer fee, or things like that.
One of the things I'd add there actually is, especially around, I think it was Articulate 2 versus 360 coming out. And as the Internet Explorer stopped kind of working with one of the programs, so in mine, I basically only say, we will help you and support you up until, I think at the time it was December 2019, because that was the last time I could guarantee that Storyline was working with Internet Explorer. And so I'll just do it like that, because if there start being bugs, that's not our issue. Like, we can't always keep up with browsers.
That's right.
So, looking for things like that could catch you out, where you're expected, because the client might come back and say, this is broken now. And you're like, well, we can't help that, Flash is dying, so you got to prepare for those kinds of things.
And that's where the assumptions come in. And that's, one of the great things about Storyline, that you can go to that page, and I actually copy and paste. It basically says what version of each of the, Chrome and Internet Explorer. And I just keep that up to date each time that I'll do that. I actually put that in my learning strategy. So how disputes will be resolved, how the agreement can be terminated, who owns the intellectual property once the project is done. That's really important.
What do you do with that?
So I've worked for the kind of big house agencies that don't give the client the master file. And I'm really honest with clients. I'll just say to them, you always want the master file. Like, tell them you want it. That is it. So you own everything. You absolutely own everything. And I say that for a couple of reasons, because I could be hit by a bus tomorrow, So I don't want that responsibility of it being on my system. I want to be able to finish the project, hand it over to them.
Same.
And even though they may not touch it or know how to do anything with it, that's what I always do personally.
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't want little changes of text changes or stuff. That's where they can handle it internally. So we hand over all master files, and I think clients appreciate that, because
I do. There's something that's it's just very transparent when you can talk to a client like that and give them advice and say, if I were you, this is what I would do. What happens if the scope changes during the project? So we talked about that before. How the work will be paid for. So I'll define, I'll define that.
What are your breakdowns? So for me, I do kickoff. So signed contract, don't start any work until you have received a signed approval for the funds. And then it's a kickoff. So I do about 40% if it's a big project, or if it's a short one, I'll do 50 at the beginning, 50 at the end. But for a decent project, I'll do 40% kickoff, start the work. Normally the big milestone would be deliver of instructional design or deliver of development round 1. So then the second milestone is about 30%. And then when we deliver all the files at the end, 30% as well. But it's also dependent on clients. Some of them have bloody 2 months before you get paid. So you need to know that beforehand, because you don't want to be, the project can be finished in 6 weeks and you're still waiting 2, 3, 4 months to get paid for that project. So that should also be something you consider.
Yeah. And, you know, I'd say to you, be tough, you know, especially if you're a freelancer. Mine is brutal. Mine is 7 days. And my terms are, you don't get your masters, you don't get your file until I get paid. Yeah. So I always get paid. And where it has been a problem, it always ends up going through anyway. So yeah, it's, if you define it, and yeah, it's if you define it from the beginning, yeah, you're giving them time to manage that. The same, I'm not as strict with starting before getting my first payment. Most people, they process it pretty quick. So yeah. And the last one we've already covered. So how much will the work cost and how long the work will take to complete? All right. So this was really good. Now, Kim and I were talking before about the different types of people you've experienced asking for a proposal. It's really interesting. See if you can tell me on this screen. I'm wondering if this screen will work. You might be able to click on this little question down here. And if nothing comes through, we'll move on to the next one. But I'm hoping you can tell us what kind of people you've experienced asking you for a proposal. And I'm talking about, how can I define it, Kim? Traits of people. L&D head, okay.
Let's think about the behaviors of them.
What are they after?
Can you tell if they're going to sign a contract, or are they just fishing? They're wasting your time? What are they really after?
Non-technical people. Yep. Ooh. Okay.
There are some of those out there.
All right. So there are really 3 types that I've come across, and I think there may be more, right? But these are generally the streams of people that come across. One is like the one who's just fishing for information.
Yeah.
You know, how do you find those, Kim?
Oh, you can tell that what they're after, like they're just, maybe they've been told by their organization to get 3 quotes, but they already have someone in mind and they're just trying to tick the box that they've made the phone call or sent the email out for a quote. I don't think they ask the right questions. They just kind of need you to come back with something, so they don't care really.
Yeah. So totally agree. This one was defined in another document as the ex-boyfriend, right? The one who never says no, right? I don't understand that. So I call them the hanger-on. So it's a person that never seems not interested in you, but never does. They never really agree to do the project with you. It's always, send a proposal, and I think you've got to be careful with that. Don't get disappointed if something doesn't move forward. Just move on to the next one. I mean, the fisher is bad, but I think the last one, the auctioneer, this is very controversial. I'd actually like to have a conversation with Aunt Pew about him, because they're normally always hymns, but they're not, and the auctioneer, we're talking about these individuals that are wanting a request for proposal, and they're basically wanting to bid off Yeah, their request for proposal, I refuse to do. If someone wants a request for proposal, I just say no, because I'm spending so much time coming up with a solution. And I actually get so frustrated with the solution that they've come up with. I'm like, no, that's actually horrible. I don't want to do that. That's a terrible learning experience. So no. What about you, Kim? I mean, how do you find these?
Well, I think you don't always have to do a proposal. You don't always have to go back to people. So a lot of times people might phone you and they say, look, we're looking for this. Can you give us a quote? And quotes take time, and so do proposals. So unless I know someone's serious about spending money, then I won't ever do that. So I think for me, it's you always talk about price in the very first conversation. If that's in a phone call or an email, the first thing I want to know is, what is your approved budget? So if that's the case, I will say, so people don't want to talk about money, right? So they'll go, oh, no, we're not sure. Can you tell us what it might be? I say, well, does this price scare you? And they'll go, oh yeah, no. And I throw something outrageous out there, say something like $100,000. Does that scare you? And then they'll go, oh no, we don't have that. And then you can start getting like, okay, well, half that. What about $50,000? And then they're like, no, we don't have that money, but we have like, 10 grand. And then you're in a better position to know, is that what you're after? Is that the kind of project you want to do? Are they serious about the project? What do they actually want? So I will never do anything unless I know what money they are talking about in their in that first conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's something that we have both spoken about a lot in just our own time, chatting together. Certainly something that I learned from Chris Doe, and we've talked about this a lot, and why he inspires us so much, because I think people waste a lot of time, don't they? They hear from a client, the client is a great name or great brand, and they're so excited, and they're messing around, and then the client has no budget, and instead you just want to get right down to it. What is your budget? And if they don't have that budget, then you can move on to the next lead that comes in.
Yeah, definitely.
So from my experience, you have these, and some of them are great, but you've just got to be aware of the kind of people that are going to be reaching out and what their intentions are. So okay, guys, what do you write your proposals in? Go ahead and let me know.
Question, ladies, if that's okay, from the audience.
Go for it.
You're using quote and proposal interchangeably. Are they the same thing?
Good question.
I actually think that they are.
Ooh, controversial. I'm going to say they're not.
Really?
Yeah, a quote for me is literally just dot points, scope, money. A proposal for me, I demonstrate methodology and how I would try and solve their problem. So I put a lot more effort in. I'm really painting the picture. That's where I talk about a 40-page kind of PowerPoint, and that's the tool that I use. But for a quote, it's an email or it's on the phone. It's X amount of money and we're going to do, and it's very quick. So quotes for me, I've either done a project before, so I have a ballpark that I can share to the client to see if they're serious. But a proposal is me going for a meatier project. Right. That's just,
So for me, it doesn't matter what someone wants. I always give them the same outcome. So I feel like a quote, if someone just said, send me a quick quote.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that because I'll get stung somewhere for it.
Yeah.
So isn't it interesting how people define these terms and even how people define, pitching and contracts and things like that? Well, there's certainly a leader here and it's Word. So that's quite interesting.
Hannah, any more questions before we continue? How's this going in the chat? What do people want?
Yes, I've got another question from Nicola. She has asked, do you have a template that you use for proposals that you massage to suit each job, or do you start from scratch each time?
Yep. So I have a template that I use, and so I don't start from scratch. I want to have a very efficient, streamlined process, because the way I used to do proposals used to take me hours, and I used to dread it. And now I've got one, I jump in, I do it, and boom, it's gone. And that's what I'm going to show you in a minute. What about you, Kim?
Well, when you're starting out, you kind of are starting from scratch. So I remember like things would take me bloody 2 days to do. But now I do have a template. I'll just quickly run through. I've got it open beside me. So my understanding of the project, the mission of us, the methodology, I should be counting like this: methodology, approach to their project, bit of our portfolio, testimonials, our team, steps to success, schedule, scope and investment, and then contacts. So that's what we include in ours. But now, like, it is just tweaking, instead of these outcomes, it's now the new client's outcomes. So it is just massaging. But that's 4 years.
It's always been refined, though, isn't it? It's like,
yeah,
no matter what, you kind of, you're never starting from a template that you don't change. You are always going, God, what went wrong on that last project, and you go, put something in my
learned means that your contract and your proposals get more and more
tighter and tighter,
We have another good question. Can I just another question from the audience?
Yeah.
So Colin has said, is it a good idea to take on work that is below your usual fee, but is with a company that could potentially be a return customer? How can you get an idea that they will be back for more?
It's not guaranteed. So know your worth and don't ever go below what you're willing to work for.
Yeah.
Regardless of promises. Like promises are like, sorry, I was going to say some bad stuff there. Always have signed contracts is what I'd say.
Yeah, it's again, it's another thing. I'm trying to think of one of the analogies that Christo says all the time. He says, it's like someone coming to you and saying, oh, how about I get you to do some work for me for cheap, and then I'll give you more work for cheap.
Or brand awareness.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. This will be good for your portfolio or something like that.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
Yeah. You got basic human needs. You got to meet them first. And just know your worth. There you go. Believe in you.
That's right. Yeah, so no, I don't. And I get reached out to quite a lot for work, and I reject a lot of it. I won't do a piece of work that I don't feel is a good learning experience. That's how far I'll go.
That's cool. That goes back to what Agla was saying earlier as well. I like that.
That's right. It's, you've got to believe, in the projects that you're doing. I think it shows in your work as well when you're passionate about the solution. So we've got a lot of people who have not used web-based tools. We've got some people who've used other ones, and I put a couple up here, guys, and there's loads of them. I've put a list actually in your resources. One of them in particular is Prospero that I'm going to show you in a minute. And I'm only showing it you because I've used it for a couple of years now, and I've demoed it around other conferences as well, and there's been quite a lot of interest in it, and I think it's fantastic.
Go on, show us.
The biggest pain in the neck for contracts, getting signatures from people, right? And the fact that you can sign this digitally and get a notification is just great. So I'm excited to show you. And I love this quote from Benjamin Franklin: the best investment is in the tools of one's own trade. Okay, so sometimes to invest a little bit of money to have a tool that makes things a little bit easier for you is, time is money.
Yeah.
I used to be a freelancer who tried to do everything myself. And now I pay for it because, sometimes it's just too hard.
Yeah.
So let's jump into Prospero. It's logged me out. So I should have actually, I should have gone to Prospero, the homepage to show you. So let's see. Can I do this?
I reckon show the contents because we're running out of time. They probably
okay.
The detail.
So at the moment it's $8 a month. So you can sign up for $1 for the first month if you want to just try it. I mean,
Gold coin donation.
Cheap. So I used this is an example of what I sent to a client. Okay, I've stripped back some of it, but I've got enough to give you the gist of what I've tried to do here. So here you can basically build this from scratch in whatever order you want. But for me, I tell them something about myself. Okay. I normally will thank them for the opportunity. I do this little content. So I don't really know why, but I do it anyway to let them just have a quick.
I do it as well. We've got a table of contents.
Tell them a little bit about me. Okay. And why I'm right to do this project. Now, these are quite old awards, but I've just stuck a few awards here. So sometimes it's good to showcase bits and bobs like that.
Yeah, credibility is important.
Absolutely.
Whether that's your credentials from university or awards or logos of clients, that's just building confidence in your capability to help solve their problem.
And this kind of gives you an idea of how things can be formatted, so you can put images in and text. You can also kind of center this and make this full width. So there's lots of different things that you can do. It is a little bit limited, but for me, I've had nothing but great feedback from clients and I'll show you what this looks like when it goes out to a client. Mm-hmm. So what I do, I talk a little bit about the solutions that I offer. And I've got testimonials here. Okay. So here, if I click into this, you can see that I can put gallery, images, videos, fee table, milestone table. Mm-hmm. You can align stuff. You can put a table in. You can align things, bullet points, numbers, quotes. So this little object here is a milestone table. And if I click on this, it's really nice, So you can put in here, a kickoff learning strategy might take 3 days, right? So, and you could just basically add a new one, and it gives you a prompt. It kind of helps you a little bit along the way. Cool. So here you can, in whatever order, you've got these things that are already built that work for proposals very well. Now I talk a little bit about how I manage my projects. So I use Trello. So I actually put a screen capture of what that looks like. And then I do some objectives. So a lot of the time a client will say, okay, so this is, it might be a full rebuild or, a course conversion, or it might be a full build or things like that. So I'll normally have goals that I'm trying to achieve. Right here, I actually, this is something that if Alice is still here, she'll laugh because I've worked with Alice before. I actually define my projects. If they want a 20-minute course, I define it as a word count. So that if they try and put more into the course, I can say, okay, so what's coming out of the course? Because this is now out of scope.
Yes.
So I define that, and you can see here, once a milestone has been signed off, any changes will incur an hourly out of scope fee of $250 an hour.
Yeah. I'm the same. Slides of PowerPoint. If it goes over 25 slides, and it helps control the client. Yeah, because the client will be like, put this in, put this in, put this in. No offense, clients. But it just, they take it more serious. Actually, do we need this? So you're helping them manage the need to know information.
Yep. All right. So last up, this is your fees. So it's just the same as the other one. You can essentially put as many different options as you want, customize this, and my terms and conditions. So things like intellectual property, copyright, cancellation, disclosure, scope. And then I tell them what to do next. So what's next? Pay me 50%. Agree to make the payment for deliverables 7 days after sign off. Payments to be made by a bank. Here's my number, here's my phone, and when's the quote. And I'll quickly just preview this and show you what it looks like. So they get a unique URL, and when they see the link, they can literally go down here, type their name, and they can choose which one they've opted in, sign proposal, and it's great because you get an email saying Bob Smith looked at your proposal, and then it kind of gives you a yippee, they've signed your proposal. And I just love it. I just love it.
Well, I know we're pretty much up, but I'm looking at I took a photo earlier of what people wanted to get out of the session. I'm pretty sure we ticked off quite a lot of them. Yep. Tips on what to include, what to do and what not to do. Example of good, visual, very clear. So I think this is how to impress a client, whoever put that down. The example of the best, this is a pretty good example. And what else? I think we've done it, Cath. High five, mate.
High five.
Thanks everyone for the session, because we're just conscious of time. Hannah, do you have one question, or how are we doing?
No, all good. Really great chat happening. So yeah, you should definitely check out the chat afterwards. But yeah, I think you've done a great job, ladies. Well done.
All right. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. You should check out the future. Christo, this is where we learn our stuff. And he's also on day 3.